High school. Yeah. It's just here, 5'8". Two high school people. He only wanted one thing. He's big now. So he's like,
Call the March 5th City Council meeting to order. Commissioner Smith, you give us the prayer pledge and fact of the day, please, sir.
Let us pray. Our God, our Father, we come once again before your presence, thankful for the many blessings you bestowed upon us. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this opportunity to be servants of your city. We ask, God, that you will lead us, guide us, and direct us in all the decisions that be made in the best interest of our citizens. We ask these blessings upon all those that are gathered here today. In thy Son, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fact of the day. On March 5th, 1770, a mob of American colonists gathered at the Customs House in Boston and began taunting the British soldiers guarding the building. The protesters, who would call themselves patriots, were protesting the occupation of their city by British troops, who were sent to Boston in 1768 to enforce unpopular taxation measures passed by British Parliament without American representation. British Captain Thomas Preston ordered his men to fix their bayonets and join the guards outside the building. The colonists responded by throwing snowballs and other objects at the British. One soldier was hit, leading him to discharge his rifle at the crowd, and the other soldiers began firing moments later. When the smoke cleared, 5 colonists were dead or dying. The deaths of the 5 men in the Boston Massacre were regarded by some historians as the first fatalities in the American Revolutionary War. Fact of the day.
All right, read the decorum statement, and it reads, welcome to the public meeting to the City Council of the City of Apopka. Please turn off all cell phones or set them to silent. The City Council permits and encourages input and comments by members of the public on all matters which may come before the council for action. If you wish to address the council this afternoon, please make sure you have filled out a card with your contact information and have presented it to the clerk. When called upon, please proceed to the podium and speak clearly into the microphone, stating your name, address of record, organization, and direct your comments to the City Council and not to individual commissioners, staff, or members of the public. The council and the city staff encourages constructive criticism. However, personal attacks are prohibited. Please observe general rules of decorum and civility. Speakers and members of the audience shall refrain from rude or derogatory remarks, shouting and disruptions, reflections as to integrity, slander, abusive comments, profanity, vulgarities, and statements as to personalities. Any violation of these provisions may result in the issuance of verbal warning, including trespassing. If violations persist after such warnings, violators will be removed from the council chambers. All right.
Mr. Mayor, right before we start, we do have an elected official in here. I didn't know if you wanted to, Dr. Moyer here, give him an opportunity to speak.
Who?
Dr. Moyer, our Orange Soil and Water District 2
Oh,
elected official.
okay. Oh, okay. Sure. Come on up, James.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jim Moyer. I'm the Orange Soil and Water Conservation District 2 Supervisor. I represent Apopka here, Ocoee, Eatonville, and a couple neighboring areas. First, I'm sorry I missed the Green Eyes event. I was at the funeral of the late, great Senator Thompson, and then I had a scheduled meeting with the county administrator, and by the time I would have come out to Apopka and got back, I never would have made it for the meeting. But I heard it was an outstanding event. I'm a retiree and member of this board, so I consider my full-time job without pay, so to speak, to be promoting and telling people about what the soil and water conservation districts do. And the last meeting was a perfect example. We're here to help people related to soil and water, mostly private people. So, for example, Attorney Jones was up here speaking in regard to Wekiva Village. and their retention pond and the possibility of that overflowing in the future because the level's already too high. That is something that originally in 1965, when they added water to the soil component, that was exactly their intention, for us to help, for neighbors helping neighbors. Now there was a lot less people than now, but we can still help neighborhoods. For example, Wakaiba Village. Thank you for your time, and God bless you all.
Thank you. Yep. All right. Agenda review, any changes? Okay. All right. Presentation. Cliff Shepard.
Did approval of minutes?
Mayor, did we approve the
Did we
minutes?
do approval?
I'm
of
sorry.
minutes?
Approval of minutes. So sorry. Any changes to the minutes? If
I
not,
did have a couple changes that it seemed like minutes needed. Some things were added, a lot were not included in the February 19th minutes. I'll just go through some of the changes that I'd like to see in there that of kind of accurately describing what happened, and then we can make those changes, kind of bring it back for us to review at the next meeting. The on page 5 of the minutes, again, I'll do this as concisely as possible. It was in reference to Wakaiba Village, actually, now that we're speaking about that. And in reference to, it was attorney Angelica Jones of Wakaiba Village came up to speak. And I want the meeting minutes to properly indicate the exchange between the mayor and myself in reference to the residents being able to speak at that time, as there were so many that were there at that time as well. And then welcoming, obviously, Attorney Jones to the podium so she could answer or ask her questions and have some dialogue about Wakaiba Village and how they've been dealing with this since October of 2024. I think that's very important to have in the minutes with what's going on here locally. Additionally, on page 5, it goes into Attorney Shepard was speaking about my concerns about the Sunshine Law, things of that nature. What I want to make sure is in there is that it wasn't just me bringing up concerns about that. It's me actually describing, detailing the sections of the Office of the Attorney General for the state of Florida 2025 Sunshine Manual. So I think that's very important that those are in there. That's not something that I just came up with, that what I stated was specifically read from the Sunshine Manual. So I need that to be added in as well. And then on page 9 itself, down onto council reports, Attorney Shepard and I had a decent amount of dialogue in reference to charter changes and timing, and I think it's important that we have that discussion in there as well, so that residents, when they go back to see what those minutes were, that they can see what the dialogue we had in reference to what we need to change, what we don't need to change, what is able to be achieved with the timing of the charter and things of that nature. So if we can get that back by the next meeting, and then we can approve those from there, make sure everyone's comfortable with those.
Okay. That's under city council comments.
That last one, yes. Okay. Thank you.
all right. Okay. Now we're up to Cliff.
So do we table it? Do we table the minutes until the next one? Oh, okay.
So at the last, am I on? Yeah, okay. So at the last meeting, I was requested to look into specifically consent agenda items and what, if any, guidance there could be as to when a public opportunity to speak is required or not. And I've sent you all an email. Essentially, what I'm going to do is recap that here. We researched this issue, and I was surprised to find that it's a lot more complicated, theoretically anyway, than it seems it should be. There's a specific statute that covers this issue, saying an opportunity to be heard is not necessary for. That statute is 286.01143. And then it goes through a list of A through C, or A through D. And where it gets confusing, and the reason why this is not as simple as I thought, is the things that we most are applicable to, because emergency acts is one of the exceptions, a meeting that's exempt, i.e. Shade meeting and so forth. Those are kind of the obvious ones. But the one that's most applicable is an official act involving no more than a ministerial act, including but not limited to, and that's critical for reasons I'll explain, approval of minutes and ceremonial proclamations. And the reason that's important is because everybody, I think up here knows, and maybe now the audience will know, that a ministerial act is one with which there's no discretion. So, for example, when you see on your consent agenda approval of a lien release, the only way you would do a lien release is if the person has satisfied whatever obligations they have. They've paid the code enforcement fine, or we've waived them, and we're simply getting it off of their property. So that's a type of ministerial act, and there's lots of others, but those are the kinds of things. But then it also says, including but not limited to approval of minutes, that is a ministerial act, and it ties that in with ceremonial proclamations, which are completely discretionary. So, for example, and I can't think of all the proclamations we've done over time, but most cities do things like Public Works Week, Firefighter Appreciation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have to do none of those, so they're all discretionary. And so everything in between, completely without decision making, and the other without discretion, the other that's completely discretionary, is why this is somewhat of a gray area. And so at the end of the day, when we look at what is and isn't on here and the kinds of things that have been on here, that's where it gets complicated to try to figure it out. And I provided to you, without kind of detailing it here, some case law that shows the level of confusion even in amongst the cases. For example, there's a case that's there's not needed for a mayoral veto or a commission override to have public comment. Does that sound like where there might be public comment? Maybe, but the courts have said no. Hiring a city manager, we think maybe there will be public comment. We have had it here, but it doesn't say it's required, and so on. And so those are so far apart from what we generally think of consent agenda items or items where public comment is not required, that it is impossible for me to say, here's a black letter rule that is easy to follow. And so my recommendation on a go-forward basis is for you all to have a moment. You can come up with whatever process you want, but it needs to be before the consent agenda is approved, in which you solicit for anybody who wants to speak to an item on consent agenda the opportunity to speak to it. And if none, then go ahead and seek your motion. If there's two ways to do it. One is the simplest way is to simply say it's the consent agenda. You want to speak to any item on the consent agenda. That's one way. And the other way is for me to review each agenda and say, these are definitely not required. These are the ones where they might be required, but it's unsure. And you can say, and some cities do that. Like they'll say, I want to speak to items 7. Does anybody want to speak about items 7, 8, 9? Because they know that the first 6 are definitely not required. So you can do it either way, but that's my suggestion. For today's consent agenda, as you will hear, I put in for you to say at that moment, what is there any public comment for these items? But how you ultimately resolve it, that's up to you guys.
Any questions for Cliff?
Yeah, so and thank you for that, and thank you for taking the time to look into this as well on my request. It's definitely appreciated and something that I think is obviously needed. In your email, you had stated that a lot is left up to interpretation. Same thing you said here, which for me, especially on the business side, interpretation equals ambiguity, which equals liability. So anytime it can be interpreted one way or the other, we have potential for liability issues.
Well, it's not that. The one thing that the attorney generals say generally about sunshine law is err on the side of caution.
Correct.
So
liberally construe it is how they state it in the actual sunshine manual. So just to confirm and make sure we're all on the same page, your legal counsel to us is make sure there's a public comment section specific to the consent agenda items prior to the consent agenda
whether
items.
you treat it as a section or just as we do now, I think what now the typical thing is, does anybody want to remove an item? And it's basically directed to you all. So it would be, does anyone from the public want to comment on the matter? Does anyone want to remove from the council, remove it from the consent agenda? Because the effect would be in either way. If it's removed from consent agenda, it gets a discussion. And if it stays on the consent agenda, but you open it for the possibility of public comment, either way you'll have complied.
Okay, understood. So moving forward, Mayor, what decision are you making as the one that
I'll
controls the
just give
agenda?
everybody, public and city council, the opportunity to remove something from consent agenda, put it on business item.
So you'll give a
Yes.
person of public to come up and state whether they want it removed?
No.
And
Right. If they want to remove, we'll put it on a business item.
okay. Well, I'm glad we did this then because it's definitely appropriate. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, got 7 consent agenda items. Is there anybody from either the public or the city council who wants to remove any of those items from the consent agenda? If not, look for motion to approve the 7 consent agenda items.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right. Porter Lake, come on up.
Can we just mention that Commissioner Moore is present here?
Da Huo, Utility Design Manager, Public Service, City of Apopka. All right, so the purpose of this presentation, or rather a business item, is for the board to get a vote on whether we should go ahead with the short-term solution that was presented here 2 weeks ago by both the public service staff, myself, and Orange County staff. So just a little refresher on this plan itself. There hasn't been not much has changed. We're going to pump water from Border Lake, which is currently above seasonal average, into Lake Blue, and in between there's going to be 4 legs of pumping set up. So, like I said before, if there's any questions on the details of this about how it operates, I'll be happy to answer question at the end of this. But not much has changed in terms of operation, how we accomplish this, and stuff like that. So we are approaching with this with the assumption that we will be pumping around 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we have established communication between us and the residents and the HOA on their consent. So I spoke to the HOA, the head of the HOA this morning and yesterday, and her personal opinion is that she's quite excited about this, and she thinks there won't be much problem as far as letting residents know that we're going to have to use their side yards in part of their property, stuff like that. The only concern is that there might be a noise level associated to this. So obviously, we're going to try to, in locations where it's close to resident houses, we're going to rent the quietest unit possible, and we're going to possibly set up wood panel installation around it to reduce the noise as much as possible. But ultimately, the plan is a plan. There's not much we can do to avoid some minimum interruption with the residents there. But the HOA has expressed that they think this is a good plan, and Mayor himself has made attempts today to knock on doors on into each individual houses, and I believe he has got yeses, consents from several residents themselves already. Rest of them, the rest of the houses that we haven't been able to connect with, we're just gonna try again and again, and then until we get the consent form signed from them. I see a question from.
I do. I know that I had shared some concerns about
Yes.
just knocking on certain residents' doors.
Yes.
Since you did get the HOA president,
Yes.
they have meetings with their
Yes.
the HOA board has their meetings with their membership. Would it be conducive if you can find out when their next meeting is, and then have representation from the staff go to their meeting? Because it's not just going to affect the actual resident who's going to be housing the pump. It's going to affect their neighbors and the community. So
Right.
I would suggest that
Yeah. So the communication
instead of the individual residents, that maybe the staff can make some arrangement
Right.
to go to their HOA meeting, so that it allows the residents to have sort of a back and forth, so that they feel comfortable with the city of Apopka going into their community to set up these the pumps.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. It's a concern we've had as well. So the head of HOA told me they're gonna not just wait till the next board meeting. They're gonna try to speak with the 4 board member of the HOA today, and I have made myself available for them. They know my personal phone number. If they have any questions on how this is going to operate, stuff like that, they can call me directly. And they are also going to send out a mass email to the entire neighborhood telling them that Apopka is going to be here to do stuff.
Okay, I still would suggest if you can find out when their next HOA meeting is going to take place. Usually they have them once a month, and just kind of just invite the community to come out, because it's just not the residents that we're asking to put the pumps on their property. It's going to affect everyone that's in that community.
Yeah, like I said before, we're going to get individual consents from every houses nearby, and obviously consent from HOA themselves. And the head of the HOA told me it's really up to the HOA. It's not up to the residents themselves. They will listen to the residents' complaints or whatever, but it's really up to the HOA. HOA say go ahead, we can do the go ahead. So I appreciate the concern.
Okay.
Any
Uh,
other questions for Don?
Are you done with your presentation?
Uh, there's nothing new that I haven't mentioned previously, but I'll just go through maybe minor details of the operation
I'll
you
wait
may
till
or
the
may
end,
not care
because you
about.
may answer my question if you
Yeah.
finish. So.
So as we're okay, just maybe one more detail as we're approaching the tail end of this operation. So as you can see, there are 4 legs to this. So the first leg that's gonna end or quote unquote discontinue is the first leg up north. So we're gonna disconnect between Border Lake and Lake Jackson. So that make Lake Jackson the most upstream lake, right? So that it gives that lake the opportunity to pump down a little bit. So each one of these lakes is between 2 to 3 feet above the seasonal average. So as we conclude this, we're gonna discontinue one leg at a time. So each lake gets a chance to pump it down. It's not just Border Lake gonna benefit from this. It's each lake along the way all gonna benefit from this. So yeah, that's about conclude this. I'm sure there are more questions that want to be followed. Also, I just want to mention one more thing. So our finance director Blanche is gonna brief on the detail and the source of this funding and all that stuff. But I just want to give you guys a heads up. It's possible that that is not the final number they're going to request for. So that budget was built on the number of units we're going to need as far as pumps, and that's the bulk of the rental cost. But I was just out there today with a contractor to try to scope out the site and how to set it up. It's a very difficult site to set up. There are places where we'll need to rent out a lot more feet of hose. There are places where, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to rent out quieter units, which will be a higher cost, but we think it's necessary. So the cost that we're going to present to you today has a 10% contingency built into it, but it's likely, or rather possible, that that's not the final cost. So, but it's our best estimation so far. It's a tight schedule to put between 2 weeks ago to now to put an accurate estimate together. That's the best estimate we have so far. So, thank you. Yeah, that's
So once this is approved today, when do we have a start date?
so. Orange County is spearheading the permitting process with St. John's, and they're putting calculations together through their consultants to an emergency service permit. That permit is usually approved within 24 hours. So it depends on how fast that's get put together. I don't really have a timeline on whether it happens this week, next week, but it should happen rather quickly if everything goes well.
All right, and then once we have that approval, then how long would it take in order to get all these pumps in place?
Yeah, so the pump itself is the estimation is that if we're operating on a assumption of operating 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, it will be around 52 days, so less than 2 months. So what we're budgeting for right now is rental units of 2 months period. If we get a consent, if we can show the HOA that the unit is going to be quiet enough to operate 24/7, then we can cut that down to about 2.5 weeks. So if we can do that, it saves a little cost in terms of man hours. But again, it's a huge assumption whether we will be allowed to operate 24/7. So
All right, but I guess my other part of the question was, once you have the approval, it's going to take a week to get all the pumps in place, or
no, if we get the funding in place, if we get the permit in place, we should be out there within 2 to 3 days. There isn't like a lag time or lead time as far as equipment wise. There's plenty of equipment from the vendor that we're talking to. So
all right. And then the second part of my question was, is that the last meeting I suggested not only we do the pumps, but we also tap into the line that was there as a additional source of getting some of the water off. Has that been pursued?
are you talking about the existing sump pump between Piedmont and Blue? So we are going to tap into that if that was your question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that one we're just gonna so that's existing sump pump there is no longer working. We're gonna discontinue it at the elbow and then connect our pump into the existing pipe networks there. If that's what you're asking.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously the goal is to use as much existing infrastructure as possible, but in certain cases we'll have to, close down the sidewalk maybe for the duration of this, for the hose to be laid down. But yeah.
Mr. Nista?
You had said that not much has changed. What has changed, I guess, from last meeting to this meeting?
Yeah, so we've refined our uh, um, cost estimate a little bit better. So previously, the cost previously was provided to us by Orange County staff, and some of the assumption on what type of pump to use is uh, not applicable in this case. So we changed some of the pump types, and we I some I was out there with the contractor today to put our eyes on where we're going to set stuff up. So there's going to be more material required than we previously saw 2 weeks ago. So that's about the biggest change.
So the cost is just going to go up on that. So the cost, we have 61,000 and change. That's with the contingency budgeted.
Yeah.
What number do you think we're going to be at?
Again, that I understand that's your biggest concern on each one of these, but I honestly just don't have an exact dollar amount.
I mean 250,000, 100,000, under $1 million, more than $1 million.
I would like to say under $1 million, but I also don't want to guarantee you that since we don't have the exact quote in front of me yet. Our contact at the vendor is working on that as we speak. Yeah.
So what we're approving tonight at our last agenda item for the budget amendments is not accurate.
It's
the
the best.
information you have now is not accurate.
It's the best accurate information we have right now. It's good enough to get us started, but I'm saying like at the end of the day, it's almost guaranteed we'll need longer hoses here and there and different equipment here.
Well, I guess this may not be a question for you then, Blanche. This is Sherman, our finance director. As you're walking up, I'll finish my comment. Is that on other projects we've done, you've thrown in 50, 100, 75,000 just to get us across. I think it was Emerson Park we specifically did that in, so you didn't have to come back. So it didn't slow down the process. I don't know why we can't do the same thing here to make sure that as we're approaching rainy season, we're able to just fund what needs to get funded so that this pumps how we need to, and you don't need to come back to us for any funds.
Okay. The information that Dahu is sharing with you today was just shared with me today. So as you know, the agenda was already presented. These amounts were the best estimate that he has at the time. And at this point, he still cannot give me a different number. So I don't know what number to add in here.
And we've got 2 more council meetings between now and when we'll be finished based just on our.
So if we don't, it could be 5,000. I don't know. It depends on what that number is, but it doesn't, prohibit us from starting this project. When
But it doesn't finish the process. That's my problem, is that we always tend to start a lot of things, fund it, and not finish it because we don't have the money, we didn't fund it, we didn't find it. This needs to be done. So whatever the number is,
I don't know. I don't know what the number is. He doesn't know what the number is, and he just shared it today. So this is where we are today.
This has been happening since October, though. I think that's where the frustration is coming in.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I just want to reemphasize one thing. Like, I understand the concern I share with the feeling. I wish I know the cost as well. But the operation of pumping water 4 lakes at a time is not something that's been done every day. It's not like we're just pumping from one place to another. We're pumping from one place to 4 other places. So operations that's as complex as that, usually you don't know the final result until you finally set everything up.
And I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
So why aren't we budgeting more? Golden Gem, same exact concept. It was a very dynamic process, very unique issue, and they said 950,000. Basically, write us a blank check because we need to be able to do what we need to do.
Well, you want to make it 100K? We can do it.
I don't know. I'm looking to our engineer and our staff to advise us properly. And I had a meeting yesterday with staff, and now it's something different again. I want to make sure that this plan is successful for our residents. That is all I want. So I don't want you guys to have to slow down anything that you guys are working on to make sure that our residents are properly protected. So hopefully you can understand my frustration and that things change within 24 hours of a meeting that I had with you all yesterday.
Yeah, and I think you just got the information today through a walkthrough, correct?
Yeah.
So it's new to me as it's new to you, but we'll do the best we can and we'll see.
I had a couple more questions. Walk me through staff coordination of this. We have man hours budgeted for this. Whether or not they're accurate is up in the air right now. I guess what's staff's role in making sure that these are fueled correctly, pumping properly, functioning? Who on our staff is going to be running these? You said it is a complex thing, so I want to make sure who's doing that. Is Orange County staff at all involved in that process of it, or is this all on us, or what's that look like?
So right now, well, what I know personally so far is that Orange County is not part of the operation. It's just going to be City of Apopka. So there are different options here. We can have our internal staff to come in, turn it on in the morning, and turn it off at night, or we can have the rental unit, the people who own the unit to come on, turn it off in the morning and turn it off at night. Obviously, there's a cost associated to it, but also there's a cost associated to having our people doing possibly overtime to turn it off, all that stuff. So right now, I don't have an exact answer for you as far as which is a cheaper option, but both options are.
Do you have one that you prefer?
Personally,
Yes, because you're going to be kind of overseeing this project from
sure.
beginning to end. So which one do you prefer?
Well, I'll prefer. Usually, I'll prefer whoever owns the unit to come operate it.
Okay.
But just to put out some
And then do you
responsibilities.
have
But
concerns of kind of midday checks of making sure that each pump is properly doing what it needs to, so that one lake isn't being
Sure.
pumped too much or not enough? And
sure, we have a flow meter on each one of these, so we should know how much flow is going in it. And we also have a system set up where we get a alert on our phone whenever one goes down. So,
Okay.
yeah.
so you will get notified if something does happen like that, and we can jump in as needed.
Yeah, and so it gets turned on in the morning, gets turned off at night, and even if even in the worst case scenario, so we completely mess up one. So at one location of the lake, it gets pumped in for the entire day, and nothing gets pumped out. That will raise a lake like Lake Meday, the smallest lake, probably 4.5 inches
Okay.
at most in a day, and all the houses around it is currently at least 2 to 3 feet above it.
And that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
What's kind of our worst case scenario to make sure that?
Yeah, worst case scenario is it rises a few inches unexpectedly,
Okay.
but we're gonna record the lake level every single day. That's part of the requirement. So
Okay.
yeah.
Excellent. All right, that's my questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson, you look like you got a couple.
Nope, I just want to just note that I understand that the city of Apopka in Orange County has put a lot of manpower and hours into this. And I do understand that new development happens probably daily on this. So I do understand that you all will not have accurate numbers as you just did a walkthrough today. So things change. So keep up the good work and we'll get through this together.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Velasquez, anything else?
Nope,
Okay.
that's it.
All right. Commissioner Moore, you want to come up?
Good afternoon, Christy Moore. It's just very exciting to be here today. It's been a long slog since about December starting working on this program. Appreciate your support. I know I talked to my fellows today. They had a lot of confidence in Dow. That's why they didn't come today. I know they were collaborating this morning, and some of the costs went down in terms of the pumps, but if they have to add more pumps, obviously there's some flexibility there. The one piece to answer your question, Commissioner Nesta, that I heard from my staff, there's an unknown here. And in fact, I learned something else from Dow that the Piedmont chain lakes are also high. So this could benefit them. But they can't give you an exact number of pumping days because it could rain. And there's going to be added water in there. And so it's a little nebulous as to how long this is going to take. So that was a one piece of it. So if you wanted to figure, I'd recommend just say to 100,000, but I don't think it's going to go to that amount at all at this point. But I'm not the engineer, and I just appreciate your staff's working together. I'm happy to hear the Piedmont neighbors are for it. We ought to throw them a party or something because they're really helping to save the Wekiva townhomes and the shopping center, and we appreciate their collaboration because really to do this is taking the county and the city and the residents. And so I'm just happy you're voting on it today, and I look forward to running out there someday to see how those pumps are running. And one other thing that I asked my staff about to answer your question, Commissioner Nesta, was these pumps don't move so much water at one time. If there was a problem, it's not likely that they would flood anything because he was telling you potentially 2 months. So it wouldn't go up or down so much that you would have a catastrophe. And so I know my staff has confidence in Dow and your staff, and I know we'll continue to watch this process and partner with you.
Absolutely. No, and thank you for being here, and thank you for Orange County's time and energy on this as well. And I just want to reiterate, because it seems like Commissioner Anderson thought that I was attacking staff, and that's not it at all. It's just I want to be able to make accurate budgeting decisions up here and make sure that nothing slows down this process to make sure our residents are safe and their biggest investments are safe as well. So
Right. And you have
appreciate
90 days. Remember that the permit is for 90 days. So we do have to get it done in that amount of time because that is the length that St. John's is going to give us. So we've got to get it done in 90 days.
understood. Thank
Yeah.
you.
But before you leave, Commissioner, let me ask you, at our last Commissioner meeting, one of the residents was concerned about the retention pond that's in that neighborhood. That's the county retention pond, I think it is.
Well, no, they're like the unnamed lake. I think we may have to address that later, but I think it's all of our hope that once all these lakes come down to see what happens with their lake and address that in about another month to see what happens. And I have some people here from Lake Cortez today. This will help the Lake Cortez people as well because it's been the backflow from Border Lake over to Lake Cortez. So they're here in the room as well, looking forward to this being done. But I'm committed that unnamed like that pond, if we have to look at some other solutions, I'll certainly be willing to partner.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Commissioner? Okay. All right.
Do we make a motion to approve it today? Because I kind of heard you say we have the next two council meetings.
No, we will do
Oh,
this.
we would make a motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Public comment. Susan, you got.
I think she has something.
Hi, Angelica Jones again. Thank you. In this plan, are we still not going? Has that? Well, let me start here. Since the last meeting 2 weeks ago to today, has anybody been out there to measure the progress that our lake over at Wakaiva Village has, where we are? So, at the start of this rainy season, nobody knows how much higher our lake is versus what it would normally be at the start of a rainy season. Nobody. Okay, so given that that has not been investigated and we're entering into the rainy season, are we still also not going to be pumping our lake along with the rest of the lakes? When you do this project here, and we're going to pump these lakes, is there still no decision to pump also our lake? Because I don't need to measure it to know that we are way beyond capacity. Like, we are more than 100% capacity in our lake. The rainy season hasn't started. I understand that what caused this problem was a 100-year storm. But as I said in my email to you all, that is true when our lake is at the regular 25% capacity. We are over 100% of capacity, so that no longer requires a 100-year storm. We are entering into the rain and hurricane season. We're gonna have this equipment here. It just sounds like it makes sense to me to put some of it over at ours and put us at a regular level as well, instead of waiting for it to flood and waiting for us to come in here and make a scene and tell you guys how our houses are under danger again. So I just heard we have this idea to measure. Thank you. So, okay, so they're going to come Monday to measure, but either way, we don't need to wait to know that we are over 100% capacity. So, my question is, are we still not even going to consider putting some of these pumps at our waters as well, instead of waiting for another catastrophe before we finally do that?
Who would answer that question?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's not in the permit. The permit that the county's working on does not include that.
So when you say working on, that means you're in the midst of doing it, which means
yes.
it isn't done,
They
which
are.
means it can be added.
They are.
The county.
Okay,
county.
so they are working on it, which means
Yes.
it isn't done, which means it can
I
still
don't know
be
if it
amended.
is written. That you have to ask the county that. Don't know.
Okay,
But the point is, I mean, you're asking, can it be added to it at this point?
Correct.
Attorney
I don't know.
Jones?
I don't know.
Was there I think we have to because it was a consultant that came up with it.
I think this is my thinking, and I'll have. Let's go through all the public comment. And
well, hold on, because I don't want to get pushed aside. So this is our fourth time having to bring this situation up. It took until Commissioner Moore stepped in and said, hey, this is this idea. we like Commissioner Nesta has said several times, this has been an issue, a known issue since October. We are now in March. We're about to get into the rainy season. And everybody kind of projects and projects and projects. And then we come in here and we ask questions, and everybody gets very annoyed because we're asking these questions. And I get it, but I'm annoyed that my house is having this problem. And my neighbors are annoyed that they're having these problems. And everybody's annoyed at what's happening. And so the answer cannot possibly be to just keep putting us off and take more questions. There has to be something, and by something, I do mean transparency, that is coming to us about how we are going to fix not just the big problems, but also the little guys. So, what, if anything, what are your ideas? I can see if this was our first meeting and I'm bringing this to you for the first time, but these are questions I asked you 2 weeks ago and you told me to come back here today. So, again, what are you doing about ours?
Well, I think that was part of the question that I asked earlier, what impact it was going to have. And from what I understand is that there's a possibility that once these corrections are done and these are pumped down, then that will also affect your pond where you are that you're concerning. And
So,
it's my understanding they're going to monitor that to see if, in fact, that takes place.
So we asked that last time, the question that you brought up. And I was glad you brought it up because it was a question that we did discuss last time. But the answer that we got last time was that, so from what has been explained to us, and again, transparency has been an issue, not from you, Mr. Smith, but there's been an issue with transparency. But what was explained to us last time was that all this water got pushed into our lake, which means that the natural flow is not for our water to go to these lakes, but for those lakes to come to our water. So I'm not an engineer, I'm a lawyer. I know I don't do science, okay? So, but I do understand some basic concepts, and so I know the water doesn't flow backwards. So what they were explaining to us is they did not anticipate that lowering these water levels was going to result in our water going into that water over there. What they said was that lowering those water levels would keep them from coming into our water next time, which is a great explanation and a great answer to if our water was starting at the regular, let's call it 25% capacity. Okay? That's great for future. But so I appreciate that you asked that and I appreciate those answers with it. But what we have right now is we're not at 25%. We are over 100% capacity in our water. And so that's where our concern is how are we going to get back to our regular water levels? And Commissioner Nesta asked that for us last week at the last meeting as well. I was hoping we would have an answer today because that's what we were told is to come back today.
So my assumption is that once these are pumped down, that there's no more water going to come from these lakes to your pond, and then therefore it will allow your pond to dissipate and it will lower naturally because it got where it was because these overflowed. So that is prevented from happening anymore, then your pond should not rise anymore.
Again, that logic works if we're talking about them flooding. But okay, I'm going to try this a different way. In a regular situation where we are at 25 capacity, our water doesn't flood unless all these waters come into it with 100-year, I keep wanting to say war. I'm sorry, with 100-year storm. Okay. However, because of how high our water is right now, it's not going to take these waters to go into it to flood. It's not going to take a 100-year storm to flood. It's going to take a heavy rainy season and a storm. With nothing else touching it, that is the danger we have. So we don't have to wait anymore. Before, we would have to wait for all that stuff to happen. But we're not there anymore. We are a flood problem ourselves now. We don't need any help to be a flood problem. We need a rain and a storm. And so that's why it's such an issue where if the same issue that presents with these ponds flooding everybody else is immediate concern for us and our house. I get it. We're not going to go into other neighborhoods. We're not going to go flood a bunch of other neighborhoods the way these ponds will, but it is going to come flood our neighborhood with just a heavy rainy season, and we're in Florida, so logic predicts that we're going to have a heavy rainy season and a storm. And for the last several years, as they've said several times, we've had getting worse and worse storm seasons. So we can naturally predict and safely predict we're going to have a busy and heavy storm season and a busy and heavy rain season. That being the case, we also have the issues of growing ocean levels. Ocean levels growing means that St. John's is going to take longer to get in, which means ours water is going to take longer to drain out. So you have a perfect storm here for our community. And if we're going to pump it feels like you guys recognize that perfect storm for these, because they have for these bodies of water, because the catastrophes that they do impacts more people. And I get that you guys got to mitigate, right? So you guys understand the same issue that this presents to all those people, our pond presents to us. And so I get that we're not 1,000 houses, but we are 60 units that all it takes is put one of them pumps over to us and drain us too.
So,
All right.
so do you think it's important? Excuse me. Do you think it's important that we just reach out to our consultant to see if they can answer a question? Because I don't think we have.
Well,
the
let's go
expertise.
through all the public comments, and we'll
Okay.
come back and try to answer some of those questions when we
Okay.
get done.
Okay, you promise you're going to come back to this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Jones.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak on?
Good afternoon, Sylvester Hall. Kind of missed most of the information, but has there been any effort put since October on finding out what is the cause and fixing the actual problem?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
And if it has, what has been done? Because we're into the rainy season now, and this could go on and on and on. You know, with Florida, the weather's very unpredictable. So what we're going to be like every 3 months, doing another permit, doing this, since October, and I'm not putting anybody down, but since October, if we got some of the best engineers on the county and the city working on this, we should be able to come up with a solution to find out what is the cause.
Mr. Hall, you need to be addressing us. You're not addressing the crowd, please, sir. Thank you.
Well, we should be able to find a solution to find out. Eh, And if I could request the maintenance inspection and the maintenance that's been done on these lakes and ponds, because when you're troubleshooting, the first thing you do is find out, you have to know the proper operation. Are these ponds draining the way they're supposed to drain? Are they set up and designed the way they were supposed to be set up by engineers? And if we simply look into that, I live right in Rock Springs Ridge. If you come in off Jason DeWillen, and I got documentation of all these pictures, just holding for the right time. But when you come in, there's a little pond there that the drainage flows into. Well, that little pond, when it gets the drainage get clogged up, you watch the drain, you go up there and you see you got grass and overflow on clogged up the entry level. So when cars come in on a heavy rain, you see them coming in and it's just like water shooting everywhere. So I took pictures then and I took pictures. It took the city almost 9 months to clean out that drain. So when they finally clean out the drain, if you requested pictures from me, I'll show them to you. Now when you come through Jason DeWillen, you don't have no more splashing. So when we're looking at these ponds, we know that the city is not staffed properly to maintain them. We had an HOA meeting that the mayor hosted with Representative Bankston, and we talked about the ponds. And I asked the city commissioner, well, how many ponds the city administrator, I said, how many ponds do we have? And he gave me an estimated guess, and I said, well, that's pretty good, but you and I know it's not right. And he said, yeah. So the next question was, based on what the young lady was putting out, the maintenance that's required for each one of these ponds, I said, it's not being done. So it's only a matter of time before they back up. And we have now this uncontrollable flooding, and everybody's wondering where it's coming from. Well, I'm going to suggest one more time, the first point to start at is to make sure that the flow is not being obstructed in any way. And it's set up and it's designed the way the engineers designed it to flow. to flow. And if we do that, I think we'll go a long way in solving the problem. Thank you.
Leroy Bell. To the young lady's point, is it any kind of way that you guys can just add a pump over on her side of town, about their houses, and get the permitting process done while you're processing Border Lake? Because it seems to me that the city, I do agree that you're trying to take care of Border Lake, and I think there's a little friction in between. I see with the county, it is just one person because I think there's an election coming up, and it's always going to be this way. But to her point, the only thing she wants is preventative. I understand what Commissioner Smith was saying. Once you pump these lakes down, your lake should sponge and go down. But at the same time, the rainy season ain't gonna give it a chance to soak in. So why don't we just try to add another permit, a pump permit with what the county doing, and just pump this lake, and then when the rainy season come in, she be back down to 25% capacity, and it'll come up. It's just that simple. It don't take a rocket scientist to figure out, but some people need frustration because that's how they get more attention.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak on this one?
Can
All right.
we have
I'm gonna have Doc come back up and he'll try
the
to answer some of
commissioner?
those
Can
questions.
she come back up?
Sure,
for
sure,
public
sure,
comment?
absolutely.
Orange County staff's been listening, so they texted me with regard to her answer. So there is no natural place. This is a closed basin to pump the water from her side, so we have to get incredibly creative for them. So they are still hoping that the water will come down. They're going to go out there Monday and measure that unnamed lake. And the two solutions they said, if one is getting the Tiger Dam sooner in case it is an early, wet summer rains, if we know a hurricane's coming. So that can always protect them towards the end. And then, Mayor, this is really a question for you because I had heard during the storm that the lift station was taking a lot of water and was actually helping the situation over there into your sewer system. And so, if once they take a look at it and look at what the levels should be for this time of year, would the possibility be for maybe to pump some of the water slowly back into your lift station to get them down, if it is warranted? But my staff believes we should wait till this other operation is done and make that. And that's really your decision if you want to pump into your source system. From that unnamed lake, but there's really no place for Orange County to pump that water to for her, and that there's nowhere for it to go. Nadia's like, you have a question?
No, I think we need to speak with the experts and the consultants because I don't think any of us are engineers. So I definitely want the professionals to tell us what's the best solution to get that water out there.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly willing to bring them back. And when my staff came up with this idea initially for the Border Lake side, we went to a consultant, and that certainly could be done.
Okay, I think that's
So
the
those are
solution.
just ideas.
'Cause
There
we
are
don't-
some ideas off the cuff, but they could be worked on with the professionals. Absolutely.
Okay. Don wants to come on up, and I know you got a couple of thoughts here. And while he's coming up, I just want to let you, the council know as well as the public, I have reached out to Utilities Inc. Got an initial confirmation they'll let us use their pipe if we can get an easement from the Lumen property owner to take water off Border Lake for our long-term solution, which is to take water from Border Lake and run it. Long-term will be a separate pipe along the easement that we already control from Border Lake all the way back to our wastewater plant. Utilities Inc. has agreed to let us alternate. The problem with alternating between Utilities Inc. Reclaimed water and water coming out of Border Lake is that our water would be storm water. We're trying to get some clarification from DEP and St. John's whether we could just with some chlorination, whether we could turn it right into reclaim, because if we got to go through our wastewater plant, it becomes much more expensive than just going right to our reclaim system. So we're waiting on the Lumen people. They've had obviously they're retracting, and I've had a couple of dead ends in the Lumen side. So waiting to get somebody to give me a call back to see if it's possible for a small easement which would be on the south side of Border Lake, closest to the Walmart neighborhood market, and then we could go right from there to their pipe, and then ultimately have our own pipe going down there. So that's the long term solution. One of the things that out this morning, as I was knocking on doors, making sure people were comfortable with a pump in their backyard, had a couple neighbors that said that one of them has a 8-day-old baby, and so he said, Mayor said, I want to help. He said, but I just, if it's too loud, can you do something? I said, well, what if we could put one of those wood privacy fence that would kind of, shield some of the sound from that. So we agreed to that. So, it's like Doss says, it's still a moving target. It's not as simple as we'd all like to believe it is. But I think we're making solutions on a long, a short term and a long term solution. And with that, Daw, you want to, I guess, a couple of other points you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't have any more in-depth insights to add to this, but initially my initial reaction to, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but her opinions was just that, I understand the frustration of seeing all these other lakes being pumped down and your own lake's not supposedly not being done anything, but pumping down all the other lakes helps with that lake, right? When it floods, what happened last year is all the small lakes become one giant puddle. We're trying to prevent this one giant puddle from happening. So preventing all this lake from flooding into that lake. So pumping down all these lakes helps that lake a lot. So you greatly reduce the flood risk in that neighborhood. So it's not like, I understand you saying, oh, my lake's not being done, but we're preventing further water from going into that lake. So, and just to go back to this third comment I was saying, like add another pump into it, there's no way to do that without shutting down Pima Road altogether. So, yeah, that's as much insight as I have on
I'm
this.
kind of you've already been knocking on doors?
Already done.
Okay, so I went through this whole thing and you didn't say that it was done already?
No, I mentioned that he did it this morning.
Yeah, you didn't listen because, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I apologize if I wasn't clear about that.
I had asked at last meeting to get some cost assessments on getting a tiger dam early. Have we done anything about that?
No, I have not.
That would be Chief Sanchez. Can you get a cost on I don't know what Tiger Dam? I know, that one was free to us, but I don't know how many feet that was, but yeah. Okay. And then also, I guess, are there ones on, could we get one in a week? Is it something that's on the shelf, or is it something we have to pre-order? That would be the other question. So if we could, get it in 3-4 days, then we would need to purchase it. Obviously, water's not going to come up that fast. But
It came up in a few days before. It was 2 or 3
well,
days.
but we're have the lake levels down lower, and then we'll also have we also were pumping water into the stormwater drain. The water was going into the drain, which was going into the county pond, which then was overflowing, which was forcing that. So the upstream, which was where the problem is for the Wekiwa Village people, without us filling up the storm drain to fill up the county stormwater pond, it would never have overflowed. It was not the pond behind the unnamed whatever behind their neighborhood. It was that the county pond was overflowing. I mean, obviously there was plenty of rain that added to that, but had the county pond not overflowed, there would never been a problem at the Wekiwa Village. So So I think we'll see that now. The question then for us, for the middle term is what happens with groundwater and seepage. It might very well be that this is a solution, and then in 8 weeks later, even without a 100-year event, it could be creeping right back up, and probably will. Now, how much we don't know, but anyway. All right. Any other questions? If not, I look for a motion to approve the Border Lake plan.
I'd like to approve it. I move to approve it with one change in that we budget $100,000 for this project.
Okay.
So moved.
Good. All right. Okay.
And
Got a
second.
motion. Got a motion by Commissioner Nessa, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Shops.
And Mayor, before we move on, Dr. Jones, I know we didn't put a pump in the retention pond, but I just want to make sure that Commissioner Moore responded, and they are going to look into your situation.
She did, which is why I didn't come back up. I just would like a commitment that this will remain a topic until what's going to be done specifically for us is addressed. Because again, I get this. You guys have to start with this, and I get that. But I don't want us to be forgotten. I appreciate bringing up the Tiger Dams. Like I said, they're expensive. I know there's alternatives. It doesn't. But I just would like some commitment that this is going to continue to be an issue until ours is also resolved. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, Shops at East Shore. Bobby.
Good afternoon. For the record, Bobby Howell, Planning Manager. Applicant is requesting approval of a plat for Shops at East Shore, located on the northeast corner of Apopka Road and Keene Road. Subject property is approximately 27.99 acres in size, and the plat establishes a stormwater tract and creates 6 lots and a 30-foot right-of-way tract. Plat is consistent with the approved major development plan, construction site plan with Florida Statute 177, which is platting. The Development Review Committee recommends approval. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. And the recommended motion this afternoon is approval. Myself and the applicant are available for questions.
Any questions for Bobby? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for motion to approve the plat for the Shops at East Shore.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Radley Williams.
Good afternoon, Radley Williams, Parks and Recreation Director. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Here today to request a road closure for the Jalen Carter Super Bowl celebration. This has been a kind of a quick process to get the celebration organized, but we're looking to celebrate and honor Apopka High School alumnus Jalen Carter for his recent Super Bowl victory with the Philadelphia Eagles. We're planning a ceremony to be held this Saturday, March 8th from 5 to 8 p.m. Right here in downtown Apopka. Apopka High School band and cheerleaders will be on site, some dignitaries, and then, of course, Jalen Carter for a ceremony. Ceremony will start at 5:30, and then it'll be followed by some live entertainment by the Blue Moon Band right there at the event. The map, or the road closure is the same road closure that's used for Market on 5th Street, and it has been reviewed by staff, including public safety, and is here today for final approval of that road closure.
Any questions for Radley?
Just a quick question. Funding on this, because I know we're going to have officers on both ends, correct, and some other things. How are we funding this?
Yeah, so police officers will be funded through the police department. Some of the other event expenses will come from some cost savings from some other events that have occurred already.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I want a big shout out to Commissioner Anderson to really, spearheading this thing, getting us to where we are. I think it'll be an exciting event to represent one of our own. It's a first ever, I guess, Super Bowl champion. So yeah, so she's done a yeoman's job get us to here, and we're excited and hope everybody will show up. So paint the city green. So Commissioner Anderson, you want to? Anything?
No, we're just excited. We have a lot of different people coming in from different parts of the state. ESPN, I think, is a great way to highlight the talent of Apopka. There's a lot of youth that are looking forward to this event. It's a great way to bring the city together and really just the achievement of one of the Apopka greats. So I'm excited that he's able to come back and really show the community and these young children kind of what it looks like to achieve such a great success. So we're excited to facilitate this in the city. So thank you all for the support of it.
Thank you. Public comment? Sure. while he's coming forward, I mean, one of the things Jalen, he hadn't forgotten where he came from. He's had his camp that he's paid for out of his own pocket with this third year,
Third year.
third
Mhm.
year. So
Going to his fourth year. He spends a lot of money. Mhm.
he's a great individual that hadn't forgotten his roots. So that's which is awesome. All right, Leroy.
Leroy Bell, Apopka. Uh, I don't want nobody to get this taken the wrong way. Jalen Carter deserved to be honored. To Commissioner Nestor point, how we funding this by taxpayers' money. It's funny that Jalen Carter, he comes out of this part of the city. And we wait until he wins a Super Bowl to honor him when with taxpayers' money. When we already have taxpayer money through CRA to help bring up the blight part of the city where these type of people come from, that we don't seem to try to honor them in any kind of way. We got down on 8th Street, we talking about putting in houses, a blight area. We got a whole lot of young Jalen Carters on this side don't have recreation parks and stuff. To Commissioner Alexander Smith's point, down on 8th Street, putting in pocket parks that people can go out. Yes, I said, this is nothing against Mr. Carter. Matter of fact, his grandfather and I went to church together. But why don't you take taxpayer money and keep up the same energy for the rest of the citizens? Let the citizens know where the money going from. To everybody point up there except Commissioner Anderson. Let's take some of this money that we're taking taxpayer money just willy-nilly. Let's get an audit going on. Let's get some retail on this side of town. Let's put more than sidewalks and palm trees on this side. We seem to celebrate only when it benefits Apopka. We have several pro football players on this side of town, and don't nobody never mention. I never hear anybody mention anything about Rogers Beckett. Roger Beckett is building up on this side of town, trying to bring property value up. But keep up the same energy. This one day that we're benefiting for this celebration, and I'm not against the celebration. It's the same thing down on what is the Front Street, Fifth Street, when they wanted to bring in the farmers market. It was a big thing then with Commissioner Anderson about how this transpired. But the only thing I'm saying is take some pride in a popular before somebody win a football game.
And I just want to clarify some things. Jalen Carter, his foundation has invested thousands of dollars back into the community. For the past 3 years, he has had a football camp where he's personally himself has contributed to thousands of kids and help. As we, in addition to that, prior to Jalen Carter actually winning the Super Bowl last year during the football camp, there was a proclamation where the city actually honored him prior to winning the Super Bowl. So we believe that engaging and allowing people to see that people that look like them that can actually achieve it, I think it's great that Apopka is putting their support behind this.
Okay. Sylvester Hall.
Sylvester Hall, yes. Thank you for bringing on the event. I plan on attending, but I will echo my neighbor. It's like Christmas. Everybody want to be very cheerful for Christmas because it puts you in that Christmas spirit and that feeling of giving. You know, you gave somebody something, so you have that gratitude. So if we can embody this and keep it all year round, then that's when we change the poverty-stricken areas that we have in our cities. And so I appreciate what you're doing. And when you say bring everybody together, when you come together, take a look around, see what needs to be improved. I once asked for the north side to come over on the south side because when you go through some of the parades, and particularly the Martin Luther King parade that we have inside, we call it the hood. We take neighborhood out because it's the hood. It's not a neighborhood, it's the hood. But when we march around, when we ride around on our nice cars and our convertibles and we waving, and I asked one commissioner at that time, which was none of you, I say, if you would want your kids raised in this area, then fine. But if you wouldn't, you should do everything in your power to change it. And so, how many centuries or how many decades we have to let go by before we change the culture, the atmosphere? Because you can see there's a lot of diamond in the rough over there. Like you said, Mr. Carter is just one of them. You got Meriwether, you got Rogers, you got the Warren Sapp, you got so many of them, football, baseball, and a few in basketball also. So when we take the time to come together and do it with genuine love and respect for each other, and we want our neighbor to live the way we live, that's when true change come about. Thank y'all, and I look forward to participating.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for motion to approve the road closure during the celebration of Super Bowl champion Jalen Carter.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Orange County Tourist Development Tax Grant. Bradley or Blanche or both?
I'll let Blanche start this one off.
Okay.
Thank you, Radley. Thank you, Radley. Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we work with Orange County to receive a tourist development grant, and we were very fortunate and received it in the amount of $13.1 million. Phase one is for infrastructure upgrades to the Apopka Amphitheater. Phase two will be new quad of softball fields to the Northwest Recreation Complex. I'm going to let Radley come up and give you some overview of what those items are.
Thank you, Blanche. So just a review. I mean, I know we reviewed this last meeting, but the grant was broken into two projects. Project Area 1 was our new softball quad, and Project Area 2 was the amphitheater. The funding agreement brings the funding availability and broken out into a year-by-year basis. So that's all outlined in the agreement. Project Area 1 is a total $8.3 million project, and Project Area 2 is a $4.8 million project. So available for any questions on the projects themselves, or if there's any questions on the funding agreement as well.
Any questions either for Radley or Blanche on this one?
We discussed this during my agenda review. There's no match to this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then because we're improving the amphitheater in such a big way, are we taking on any new plans or initiatives to promote this in a different way than what we have in the past?
Yeah, so we're continuing to promote to not only the promoters that have come in the past, but also actively searching out for new promoters and new groups. We're becoming more active in Visit Florida and Visit Orlando to help market this particular venue, along with the field and athletic side of it. And there's interest in the amphitheater. We actually this week had an outreach from a new group that's looking for a space that might fit their needs at the amphitheater. So.
No, I mean it's a great space. It's an incredible space. It just let's maximize it because it can be an incredible income producer for us and a benefit to the community.
Correct. In the last couple of years, we have actively been putting additional funding in the capital plans for the amphitheater to increase perimeter fencing, and these improvements will also go a long way into reducing those infrastructure costs that currently a promoter will have to bring in: porta potties, fencing, we've taken care of that. The loading dock is kind of tight, so trying to get the larger venue or larger acts in presents some challenges sometimes. Adding that access to the very top of the hill where we're planning to place our vendor locations, which is used currently for vendors, but it's grass all the way up there. So improving accessibility will also open those doors for more and more.
Yeah, I mean, everything you guys
Interest.
have planned and presented, it helps to formalize this park so much more, and I think that's going to go a long way. So I appreciate you and your staff's time on this, as well as the finance department, because this is going to go a long way for our city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one?
Rod Olson, 3156 Rolling Hills Lane. Really excited. I'm at the park almost every day. In fact, I ran into the engineer that's looking at the roadway coming across the back. As I expressed to him, as I expressed from the beginning when they talked about the improvements here, we had to really consider making that entrance, it be entrance 1 and whatever they're calling this one, 1A, to make it one way. For soccer weekends, soccer Saturdays, it can take 20 minutes to get out of our parking lot. And by making it one way, I think we'll smooth the flow and allow people to get out in and out on a more timely basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve the Orange County Tourist Development Tax Grant.
So
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Bradley. Thanks, Blanche. Next up, Blanche, the awarded contract for the RFP 2025A117, Enterprise Resource Planning and Enterprise Asset Management System.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I have Mr. Sham Duna with me from In Momentum. He's been the consultant working with us from the beginning of this process in regards to developing the scope of the RFP, through the process of the RFP, and he will continue to work with us throughout this implementation. The evaluation committee members consisted of 8 people, and the members were myself, Radley Williams, Rob Hippler, Joe Patton, Josh Robertson, Charlie Stevens, Daniel Sacido, and Christina Marie Milton. So, Sean, where are you? Oh, here you are. He's going to start out the presentation. I'll come back at the end.
Great. Thank you, Blanche. Good afternoon, Mayor and the Commissioners. My name is Sham Dura. I'm a principal within Momentum. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ERP and the EAM system, go through the background of the project, some of the key findings, what are some of the project goals within the RFP development that Blanche just mentioned, and then go through the next steps. So we've been basically engaged as the consultant to determine a review of the current environment for enterprise resource planning and the enterprise asset management functions here within the city, and then to define the requirements and help implement a system that better meets the needs of the city. As you can well imagine, from an ERP/EM system perspective, it's the core of any, the main core of the system that a city basically utilizes for its daily functions, and it touches just about every department in the city. So the ERP, which is an Enterprise Resource Planning System, that basically consists of all the finance and human resources systems, which are like accounts payable, accounts receivables, payroll, project accounting, utility billing, procurement, etc. And as well as on the human resources side, things like employee management, benefits administration, performance management, recruiting and onboarding. And the enterprise asset management systems, they consist of basically fixed asset and rolling stock management. So whether it's the vehicles, utility vehicles, the fire department vehicles, police vehicles, etc., or whether it's the buildings and parks and recreation items and so forth, repair and maintenance of those, creating work orders around those, and managing the warranties and the inventory related to that. So we went through a process in determining all the gaps and reviewing out the current systems, which consisted of interviews and discussions with all the department heads, as well as all of the staff and stakeholders, and through various meetings and conducting of group workshops. We reviewed basically what the department functions were related to these ERP and EAM systems, what was utilized currently in the course of performing those job duties, reviewed any third-party systems, and then looked at any pain points and gaps in technology, et cetera, and then what was also needed from a desired functionality perspective. So the departments that were basically interviewed were finance, human resources, fleet maintenance, public services, parks and recreation, the police department, fire department, city clerk, utility billing, and code enforcement. So from some of the major findings basically were the current ERP systems, basically they're dated, they lack a lot of the functionality that's needed within the systems, and integrations to support many of the city's functionality that's required in the business processes. They are anywhere from 8 years to 20 years older, and there are a number of systems that are being utilized outside of the major systems that are there for the ERP functions and the EAM. So we have two major systems that are being utilized for that. Outside of that, they're supplemented by about a dozen other systems and numerous spreadsheets that are still used to be able to perform the daily work. The current systems, they also lack the necessary audit trails. Somebody can go in there basically and overwrite somebody else's work and without having a trail to kind of see what has happened to that. A lot of the matching processes on the financial side are being performed manually. And as a result, from a data perspective, since there are so many systems that people are working on, there's not necessarily a single source of the data for the city. So you could have conflicting data that comes from one part of the system and a conflicting data that, from another system that's in use on the same set of data. They also a lack of the necessary workflows and approval processes, and that basically stems from not having a single integrated solution that exists. As you can well imagine, there are about a dozen systems that don't necessarily talk to each other. So a lot of things are done manually. There's a lot of duplication of data, double entry, etc., from one system to the other system, and all the approvals and workflows are all done manually as a result, because it's one department, when they do their job, it simply doesn't transfer to another department in order for them to approve or review what's been getting done. So all of that stuff is being done manually. And there are a variety of other functions, etc., some of those that are listed here that are missing altogether, things like grant management, for example. So a lot of those things are being done manually and utilizing spreadsheets and so forth. Things like inspections are tracked manually on spreadsheets as well. So there are, from a goal of a new ERP, EAM system, the requirement has been basically to get a comprehensive, fully integrated ERP EAM system that also is as much possible in terms of future-proofing it. So it has certain hooks in place for any future systems that the city obtains for to have an integration much more easier to that. And so some of the key goals basically for this procurement has been to eliminate all the standalone business systems that I just mentioned, eliminate a variety, numerous spreadsheets that are being utilized right now and all the manual processes as a result, and have a much better approach to having a single source of data that is correct versus multiple systems giving conflicting information. And to ensure compliance with all the legal standards and then to improve the workflow and the approval process, etc., and while implementing the industry best practices. So from a general functionality standpoint itself, this would be a cloud-based and a hosted system where the vendor is responsible for upkeep and management of that system and applying upgrades and so forth to that, with an easy-to-use and intuitive user interface. As you can imagine, with the current about 12 systems that are in use, plus a variety of spreadsheets, all of them have different look and feel. If you have a single integrated system, users can go in there, they have the same look and feel. It's much easier for them to use it. It's much easier for them to be trained on it and to perform the work that they have to do all the time. The other big piece of it is getting information and data in real time. So with the current plethora of systems and spreadsheets that are there, by the time information is complied and it comes to you or the heads of the departments for decision making, that data is already old. When you have real-time information, you can look at it right away and make those decisions relatively earlier. It also has enhanced reporting analytics, benefits of some mobile applications for people out in the field who are working there, need to create work orders, and for mechanics and maintenance purposes as well. And the benefits really are improving all the efficiency that I just went through, including all the obtaining the real data, enhanced accountability and audit trails from there, and better maintenance and management systems to track and maintain the city assets, and to reduce costs through better warranty management, and to extend the lifespans by having better maintenance protocols in place. The new system would also have a built-in service portal for employees as well as for the vendors for better self-service. That then also results in improved citizen services through the streamlined process for better customer service and experience. So from a RFP development standpoint, basically went through developing all the scope requirements that were gathered during the current state assessment. And then all of those requirements were reviewed with each of the departments and the stakeholders through an iterative process until they were finalized. Then we did a final draft of that and sent that to the departments for a final review and comment. Any final comments were then taken into account and incorporated into the final RFP document to be issued. The RFP was issued on October 27th. We had a pre-proposal conference from the interested parties, the vendors in the industry on November the 15th. The proposals were due on December the 9th. We received 3 bids from Eclarion, SAP and Saventus, and Tyler Technologies. So evaluation meeting number 1 was held with all the committee members that Blanche mentioned just now on January the 9th. And it was decided during that meeting that on-site demonstrations would be held with all the 3 proposers, and they were held on February 10th, 11th, and 13th. Then after those demonstrations at the second evaluation meeting of the committee members, Tyler Technologies was selected by the committee to move to the best and final offer stage. Then the following week was spent basically to discuss with Tyler Technology, finalize what was being delivered and so forth, and the pricing. And then evaluation meeting number 3 was held after that at that point with the committee members, and Tyler Technologies was selected unanimously by the evaluation committee to move forward to the council for award. So from an scoring results perspective, this basically lists Eclarion at 103.2, SAP Saventus at 102.71, and Tyler Technologies at 134.28. After the best and final offer, the Tyler Technologies score was 181.66. And just a little bit about Tyler Technologies. They have about 45,000 installations across 13,000 locations. They have 2,004 U.S. clients who are basically utilizing the same product that the city would use as well if approved. And out of which 120 deployments of the same application are actually in the state of Florida as well. And they have a dedicated team in the state of Florida to look at and conform to the state regulations, et cetera. They have a 98% customer retention rate, and they have a little over 7,400 employees. And we also, in conjunction with the procurement department, did reference checks with some of the folks within Florida who use that, some of the agencies. We connected up with City of Oakland Park, City of Port St. Lucie, Pembroke Pines, City of Wellington. and they had very satisfactory comments about them. In fact, a couple of them have got renewals coming up, and they have decided to go forward and renew with Tyler Technologies. So from an implementation schedule perspective, really the main goal here is to time that. This is an 18-month project, and it's a pretty comprehensive project, as you can see, with all the various modules and the functionality that will be brought forth by this project. And so the main goal is to time that with rolling over to a new fiscal year, because there's a significant amount of historical data that also needs to be converted, and they'll go into the new systems. So it's always easier to start off at the beginning of a new fiscal year. So October 1st of next year would be the goal to go live with this. Currently, we finished with the BAFO, so, and if approved to go forward, we'll go into the contracts state with Tyler, issue a notice to proceed, then go into system design, configuration, installing, etc., then go into all the testing, go live readiness, turnover, all the training of the staff, and then go live on October the 1st, followed by clearing any kind of a punch list items that may be remaining within about 60 days after that, to then do a final acceptance. So with that, I'll turn it back to Blanche for next few slides.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. At this point, I just want to give you a budget overview, and we did discuss this in our briefings. To get through this implementation process, we're looking at about 3.8 million that we need with Tyler Munis and the project management and implementation. Currently, I have in the budget for this effort about 2.5, so I would need to increase that amount to about 1.4, and that's included in the budget amendment later. Some of the next steps after this final approval of the award of the system, we'll proceed with executing the contract with the vendor, have some internal project kickoff with the city that include mapping of the data sources, including spreadsheets, review of that conversion data, finalize the list of systems that will no longer be needed with Tyler implementation, and finalize the integration needs. We have a kickoff with the selected vendor, and then in regards to the future, the design work of the ERP and EAM system, migration planning, data conversion, integrations if necessary with some of the third-party systems, business process re-engineering and update the policies and procedures based on the new system, quality assurance testing, user acceptance testing and user training, go live, planning, cutoff management, go live, final testing. Then look at the punch list as Mr. Duno just mentioned, and the final acceptance, and then the planning and the phase out of the old system. Any questions?
Any questions for Blanche?
I've got a couple questions, and I just want to say thank you both for presenting on this. It's something that, Mr. Sherman, I think you had brought up. I think my first meeting with you was, we need a new system. It is so outdated that it is slowing down processes, costing us more money, inefficiencies. So I'm glad we're finally here. I've been waiting for this to come up, so I'm glad we're here now. In reference to the references that we had contacted, are there any local Central Florida ones that they've worked with? Because those were all seem to be South Florida contacts or references.
These were the ones that best met the type of systems that were being deployed here,
Okay.
and somewhat kind of similar to the scope and size. So that's why those were contacted.
Okay, got it.
Right.
And then, and we discussed this during our agenda review yesterday, we don't need any additional computers or technology. This is going to be cloud-based. We're going to be able to use what we have and implement this, not quickly, but quicker than...
Right, exactly. And from a access standpoint, the users would be basically, they can utilize their current systems. Because it is cloud-based, the only equipment that may be needed would be some tablets, etc., for use by the mechanics in their course of work, and maybe potentially at the cashier side of it, like a point-of-sale system, if necessary.
Gotcha. And then one last comment or question, I guess, and you had made the comment that we're going to have improved audit trails. Now, you made the statement that basically somebody could have come into our current system, changed a number or something, and we wouldn't be able to track how or why or when.
Correct. There are certain things that can be changed. Yeah.
The who, you'll know that it changed, but you just wouldn't be able to know who changed it.
Okay. But again, but it won't have a trail of where that number came from. It can just be automatically updated. You'll know who did it. Or you won't know who did it, but you know the time.
If they attach documentation to it, that transaction, yes. But if it doesn't, you'll know that a change occurred, but just don't
And
know
that's
who.
it.
Yeah, but don't
Okay.
know who. That's
And I
why
think
we
that's
reconcile. That's why we do all these things outside the system.
right. And I think it just goes back to why, we have an auditor that comes in every year, but it's
Mhm.
only based on data that we provide them. So
Oh,
I think
no.
having these trails now to
Yeah.
actually properly understand where these numbers are coming from
Mhm.
is going to help huge in transparency and also confidence in our system. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for either Blanche or for our consultant? Okay, anybody from the public wishes to speak on this one? If not, close the public hearing. Look for motion to approve the contract for RFP 2025-A-117 regarding the Enterprise Resource Planning and Asset Management System.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Next up, ordinance number 3093.
Ordinance number 3093. An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from County A1 Citrus Rural District, County A2 Farmland Rural District, City T Transitional and Residential Single Family Estate, RSF 1A, to KPI MU, Kelly Park Interchange Mixed Use, with an assignment of neighborhood overlay for certain real property generally located south of West Kelly Park Road and east of Chandler Road, owned by Kelly Park Road Property LLC, comprising of 117.16 acres more or less, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Any changes? Okay, anybody from public wishes to speak on this one?
Rod Olson, 3156 Rolling Hills Lane. Yeah, some of it, I want to first of all thank you for posting both acres and number of units per acre. But when you read it's 117.16 acres, it says it's 5 units per acre. But the proposal says 392, which is about a third of an acre for each property. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Because if not, it could calculate 500 to 585 units with the 5 units per acre the way it reads.
Yeah, the 5 dwellings per unit is the max they can go to.
Okay.
So it's up to.
All right, so it's the max. Well, it gets back to, we spent better part of the first hour talking about flooding. We can't do much about history. I've talked about moratorium before, and that fits in this. But if you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. We got flooding issues. We have Golden Gem Pond. We have further infrastructure issues with key staffing positions that are vacant. We got road and sidewalk issues. Preventative maintenance is one of the primary reasons for the rate increases we had in utilities. And as Mr. Sylvester earlier had indicated about the aspect of PM. Every piece of equipment the city has should be on a PM schedule. I know the cars are because of personal experience with it, but everyone, and it has to be verified. You have to inspect what you expect. We can't continue on this route. OCPS, there's been an exchange of emails going back and forth. Well, the fact of the matter is that 5 of our 15 schools in Apopka are over capacity. This unit will produce 160 new students, primarily in where? Zellwood, Wolf Lake Middle, and Apopka High School. Guess what? Those are the 3 of the 5 overcrowded schools. We can't continue at this continued pace. I've presented before that we need to do a moratorium. Someone's got to put the cork in the bottle. Someone's got to pause, get our legs underneath us so we don't have to continue to deal with flooding, deal with rate increases because we're not doing our PM. We got to inspect what we expect. I think that pretty much covers it. You guys have the power to pause. We need a pause.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for motion to approve ordinance number 3093.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 3094. June.
Ordinance number 3094. An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described land situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by BDT Irrevocable Income Only Trust, located at 2501 Rock Springs Road, comprising 9.63 acres more or less, providing directions to the city clerk, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Good afternoon. This is Jun Zone Planner at the Community Development Department. The applicant has requested annexation of the property located at 2501 Rock Springs Road. The property is about 9.6 acres in size with a current land use and zoning of county rural agricultural. It is currently vacant, and the proposed use is a residential development consisting of 18 single-family homes under the land use of residential very low suburban with the RSF 1B zoning. The surrounding properties has land use of county rural and institutional, and are surrounded by residential properties and a school. The Development Review Committee has recommended approval, and the recommended motion is to accept the first reading of ordinance number 3094 and hold it over for a second reading and adoption on March 19th, 2025. The applicant is here and has requested to give a brief explanation about their plan on the property.
Okay, come on forward.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Elizabeth Crane with Gray Robinson on behalf of the owner. The property, I guess, let me do there we go. Perfect. This is the proposed site plan. It's 18 single-family home lots. And as you can see in the front, there'll be a lot of open space. The goal is to keep as many trees there as possible, but it's not going to be a multifamily development, single-family homes. The width of the lot is actually going to be 85 feet, so pretty large in general. And the starting price point for homes is going to be around $850,000. So, and this is some of the proposed model homes. There's many to choose from, so for owners in the area, for people that want to buy. And this is a development that is just up the street at 2600 Rock Springs Road. The owner also owns that property, so this development will basically be mirrored after that. And as you can see, they will also be putting in a lift station in the back area, so that will also be at this development if approved. And I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for the applicant or for June?
2600, but what was that? 2600 Rock Springs Road?
Yes.
They're currently under development?
Yeah, so the same developer that had purchased this property also is developing that, and it's going to be actually the same home builder and the same designer
Who's
that they
the
would be
home
using.
builder?
The home builder is going to be, let's see, Ray Homes, and the designer is Urban Perch Homes.
Well, I'm sorry, that's Ray Homes?
REY, yes.
Do you have the square footage of the homes?
I actually think it is on the total under roof is around 3,345 square feet. For design, and like I said, it's 85 feet wide lots, and actually in this development, you can see at the top it's only 80 feet, so this will actually be bigger lots. So,
Can you go back
yes,
to keep going back to where you're showing, you're saying 2600,
oh, that's this one. Sorry.
you were in the right place. This is 2501 Rock
Yes,
Road.
so this is an example of what has already been approved by the commission at 2600 Rock Springs Road. Same developer owns this property, the one in front of you for 2501 Rock Springs, and they're mirroring the development, but it's actually going to be bigger lots. So I think also the price point for homes is going to be a little higher too. So
I didn't understand where
no worries.
2600 came in. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant or for June? All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Rod Olson, I won't go over everything tonight. We just went over to save everyone time. But a number of units was not included on the sheet this time, so please make sure that's in there so it makes it easier to follow. It just does generates another 9 students into the same 3 schools that are already over capacity. You must keep this in mind as we're looking at things. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve ordinance number 3094 at first reading and hold over for a second reading and adoption.
Some,
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm going to have to, unfortunately, I'm trying to slow down annexations right now. That's what we need to be doing. So I'm going to, unfortunately, vote no on this one.
Okay, so we got a
4 to
motion
1.
passes 4-1 with Commissioner Nesta in opposition.
Okay.
Next up, ordinance number 3095.
Ordinance number 3095. An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Apopka Comprehensive Plan of the City of Apopka, changing the future land use designation from residential very low suburban to mixed use for certain real property owned by Adventist Health System Sunbelt, Inc., generally located on the southeast corner of Kelly Park Road and Plymouth Sorrento Road, comprising 5.56 acres more or less, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
For the record, Bobby Howell, Planning Manager, the applicant has submitted a small-scale future land use amendment from residential very low suburban to mixed use. Excuse me. The property is located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Plymouth Sorrento Road and West Kelly Park Road. And the applicant is requesting the future land use amendment to bring the property into the village center character zone of the form-based code area. Property is 5.56 acres in size, and they're requesting it to allow the potential development of non-residential uses consisting of a freestanding emergency department and associated office and retail uses. The Development Review Committee recommends approval. Planning Commission unanimously recommends approval. The recommended motion this afternoon is to accept first reading of ordinance number 3095 and hold it over for second reading and adoption. Myself and the applicant are here for questions.
Any questions for Bobby?
This is within the KPI, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have a question, and it has to actually have with the vote because it's Advent Health. Initially, when I was on the community board for Advent Health, I was contacted by the attorney to say that I could not be, well, it wasn't conducive to be on the board because they would come before me for a vote, which I did resign. But I do have to ask the mayor, do you still sit on that board?
I haven't been to a meeting, so I assume I'm not on the board, but I haven't been to a meeting since the last one we were at, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, if he's on the board, there's a problem potentially. I don't know if he's on the board.
Yeah, well, I know I officially resigned after you told me that. I did send an email to the Advent Health, and I was guided by your advice.
The alternative, if we're uncertain, is to recuse and fill out the form. Or
Okay.
abstain, excuse me.
So I'll just recuse myself then, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one?
No, I had
Okay.
resigned a long time ago.
Okay. All right. Looking for a motion then to approve ordinance number, 3095 at first reading and hold over for second reading and adoption.
So
moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to recuse myself and send in the paperwork to do such. Okay. Next up, ordinance number 3096.
Ordinance number 3096, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from T transitional to KPI MU Kelly Park Interchange mixed use, and assignment of Village Center District overlay for certain real property owned by Adventist Health System Sunbelt, Inc., generally located on the southeast corner of Kelly Park Road and Plymouth Sorrento Road, comprising of 5.56 acres more or less, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
This is the companion rezoning ordinance, for the record, Bobby Howell, Planning Manager, to the future land use amendment that was just approved by the City Council on first reading. The master plan proposes development of the property, as I mentioned before, with a freestanding emergency department and retail and office uses. There is a reservation right of way, 30 feet on Kelly Park Road and Plymouth Sorrento Road. Within that, the trail, the 12-foot wide trail that is becomes synonymous with the Kelly Park form-based code area. Every project comes through, that trail is going to be constructed on the property as well. Roadway and pedestrian connections will be provided to allow cross-access to the properties to the south and east at such time that they develop. In accordance with the form-based code, 10% of this site is reserved as open space, 10% being that this is in the village center, which is the core area, the most urban form of the Kelly Park form-based code area. The Development Review Committee recommends approval. Planning Commission unanimously recommends approval, and the recommend motion this afternoon is accept first reading of ordinance number 3096 and hold it over for second reading and adoption. Myself and the applicant are here for questions.
Any questions for Bobby?
Just a quick question. Will we be approving a plat later on down the road?
Down the road, possibly, yes, because of the reservation of the right-of-way. That might be dedicated, and if they sell off the lots. But they could just come in with the several buildings because it's not a residential development and not have to plat it. So it depends, basically.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve ordinance number 3096, first reading, and hold over for a second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'm going to recuse myself from the vote, and we'll send in the appropriate paperwork. So motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Next up, ordinance number 3100.
Ordinance number 3100. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending Chapter 54 Retirement Systems by amending Article 4 Police Officers Retirement System, Section 54-120 Membership, Section 54-127 Vesting, Section 54-146 Deferred Retirement Option Plan, Section 54-147 Reemployment After Retirement, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and set an effective date.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Mike McKinley, Chief of Police. This is a change to the retirement system to allow the future police chief to opt out of the police retirement system. It was recommended by the Police Pension Board. I'm not a member of that board. I was just selected to come up and present this. But it gives the opportunity for the police chief to opt out and enter into a 401 or 402 retirement program with the City of Apopka versus being in the traditional retirement system. The actuarial that was done showed there was no impact to the retirement system based on this change. It is also consistent with what the fire department's retirement system states.
Any questions for the chief?
Is this the agreement that is being signed, or I guess, is it just the ordinance with this?
It's just an ordinance change to allow the police chief to opt out of the, in the future, to opt out of the traditional retirement system.
Does this directly mimic the fire chief's similar one, or what's that?
The fire chief already has that option in the fire department's retirement system, is my understanding. They've had that for a little while, according to the pension board meeting that I was at.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve ordinance number 3100 at first reading and hold over for a second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Resolution 2025-09.
Resolution 2025-09. A resolution of the City of Apopka to vacate a 60-foot wide portion of West Oak Street right-of-way, located west of North Washington Avenue in Section 9, Township 21, Range 28 of Orange County, Florida, providing for directions to the city clerk, severability, and conflicts.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amir Hamza. I'm a planner. The applicant has submitted an application to vacate an abandoned, unapproved portion of West Oak Street right-of-way, just located west of North Washington Avenue. This is the aerial map of the abandoned, unimproved public right-of-way that is being vacated. Currently, it is vacant. Here is the proposed right-of-way being vacated, a survey of it. It is 60 foot wide. The Development Review Committee does not object to the vacation of the 60-foot wide abandoned unimproved public right-of-way as described in the legal description. The recommended motion is to adopt Resolution 2025-09. And staff and applicant is here in attendance for further questions and comments.
Any questions for Amir?
More so just confirmation that what happens effectively is this just gets split down the middle. The parcel to the north gets half, and the parcel to the south gets
That
half.
would be correct, yeah. But then also the vacate will not happen. Basically, an existing 24-inch sewer force is currently exists there. So the city to have this vacated, vacated, the city would need to have access to the vacation
So we'll retain
area.
an easement on that property still.
Yeah, we still have a utility easement on there. So
Okay.
we just would have, the city would need to have permission to access it whenever they want to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions for Amir?
And then the appraiser's office will get this, and then the residents will have their plat.
That-
This will be added to their plat
That would be correct.
at
Yeah.
the appraiser's office.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't have to be, right? Like they could keep it as just a separate parcel that has their
They,
name
they
on it.
could, yeah. That is like for after. This is just for
Okay.
the vacation, yeah.
Okay.
Both options are there, yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for motion to approve ordinance number, what are we talking about?
Resolution
Resolution, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page.
2025.
Yeah. Resolution 2025-09.
So
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez,
Second.
second by Commissioner Nesta. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Resolution 2025-11.
Resolution 2025-11, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, determining the necessity and public purpose and authorizing the acquisition of property in Apopka, Florida by eminent domain or through negotiation for the construction of a city public safety building, directing and authorizing the city administrator to take all necessary actions to carry out the aim of this resolution, authorizing the city attorney to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire the necessary property, providing for legislative findings, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. Mike McKinley, Police Chief. This is the remaining property on 7th Street that we don't have to complete the public safety building that we've been working on for numerous years. This goes back to Mr. Bass trying to resolve this issue for us to purchase the property or work with them to obtain this property so that we have all the property on that block to complete the public safety building so it'll fit. We've tried to work with the owners in some negotiations with their attorney. Their position was for us to take this to eminent domain because there may be some tax benefits for them to have us take it that way. We're still trying to negotiate purchasing the property. Mr. Shepard's been trying to reach out to their attorney. He hasn't been able to get hold of the attorney. Last he spoke to him, he was going on vacation. He hasn't ever called back. So we don't know if he's still their attorney. We've sent emails to the owners. We're doing everything we can to try to resolve this without going through the eminent domain process. But this just allows us to take that eminent domain process if we can't get this worked out with the owners of the property.
Any questions for the chief?
This one's for Attorney Shepard,
Yes.
and I know this in our agenda review as well. What happens if we take possession of this property but we don't move forward with the project?
We have, well, when you say take possession, you don't take possession unless you have ownership. So you own it. It's just another piece of property you own.
Okay.
So,
But
that's the
through
answer.
eminent domain, though, proceeding. So don't you have to use it for a specific purpose to eminent domain somebody's property?
Well, again, the answer is that's the basis for taking the property. If you do not use the property for that purpose for some unforeseen reason, and there could be a lot of them, you own the property. You've stated that you pick a public purpose. You went after for that reason. That's the purpose you're supposed to use it for. But there's no cases that I'm aware of that say once you get it, after you've actually paid the compensation, you can't.
Has to be used.
Yes,
It's not like
correct.
a deed restriction. Okay.
It's not like a deed restriction.
And
Correct.
that was my, because since being elected, we haven't done an eminent domain case. So I just wanted to just make sure that should something come up or delays happen, I didn't know if there's time provisions of you need to do certain things and
No,
meet certain
but
thresholds.
there is. I will take this opportunity to tell you that in the next meeting you're going to have several more. It may be one resolution that covers more properties, or there may be a couple of different resolutions if it's different projects. But this is coming up because the necessary step before I can file anything is these resolutions. This is a requirement. And so that's what it is. This is just sort of like the first one, but there's going to be several other properties associated with Kelly Park. And I think there's another one associated with something I can't remember where, that is going to be a part of what you're going to be doing. At any time in this process, the owner is free to say, and we have tried to get them to negotiate with us and get us to where we can reach to a contract and avoid all the litigation. But particularly with the road project, timeliness is a real issue now because Mr. Galvin wants to be under construction and finish the road for the Kelly Park widening and whatnot. And without the right of way, it's impossible for him to do the things he needs to do. So that's why. But for all of those folks, if anybody's listening, saying, "Well, why are they doing this?" and they hadn't contacted me, we're trying, but you gotta meet us halfway.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Again, I just wanted I didn't know if there was any provisions otherwise. So thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Is this the last piece of property that we need?
Yes, sir. We already purchased a property at the corner of 7th and Park a couple years ago. This is the McGee property across from their old tire store. There's a right-of-way in between the property at 7th and Park and this property that belongs to the city already, and the other lot to the east of this property already belongs to the city also.
All right.
And for full transparency, we offered them fair market value or over market value for their property first.
We offered them market value, and they came back. Their last and final offer was they wanted the same dollars per square foot as the corner lot, which was triple what we got as the appraised value.
Okay, so we did have an appraisal. I know we talked
Yes.
about this, but I just want to be clarification so that way
Yes,
it would be
we've completed
clear
an
on record
appraisal
that-
and a survey on the property.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, their awning is 2/3 on our property. The awning that they've been using for years is not even on their property.
Okay, because I did get a call on this. I just want to be very clear that the city was not trying to take their property for.
No, and we're still
than-
not. You know,
Okay.
this is just to allow Mr. Shepherd, if we continue not to be able to communicate with them or make communication with them, to allow us to go down the next step if we have to.
Okay, and the
We'd
city
love
has-
to resolve this. I'm sure Mr. Shepherd would love to resolve this. But you know, when I looked at the square footage of the corner lot versus the size of this lot, I know the mayor said about 3 times. It was actually probably about 6 times
Okay.
what they were.
And the last
over
communication we had to reach out to them was when.
I have to check my emails, but recently, and as an update, the appraisal we got is now a couple of years old anyway, and we've recorded an update. So if there's been a change, we can reflect that on our proposal to them if we get somebody to dance with. I'm not a good dancer by myself,
Okay. Okay.
or at all really, but
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for motion to approve resolution 2025-11.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Nesta. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, resolution 2025-12.
Resolution 2025-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the budget for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025, providing for a budget amendment.
Thank you, Susan.
Lance.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Blanche Sherman, Finance Director, here presenting Budget Amendment Number 7, now in the amount of $14,873,356. Item number 1 has no budgetary impact. We're adding 2 positions to Utility Maintenance Department for Utility Service Worker 2 to help out with some of the water meter upgrades and replacement and other duties. We brought before you this afternoon and you approved the TDT grant with Orange County. Here we want to incorporate year 1 funding of $4.5 million to start the design work and the upgrades. Border Lake, we had a lot of conversation about that today. We want to increase this amount to $100K, so that makes this total amount to be $200,000 because it is a transfer between funds. So we're increasing that amount to $200,000. Harmon Road and Binion Road. I think this is some curb work on Vista Village Apartments or something like that. The estimate is about 36 with a 10% contingency of 3,675. With the transfer, makes that total amount 80,850. In regards to the financial system, the ERP system, and the EAM system, I brought this before you earlier, trying to incorporate the additional funding needed in about 1.4 million. Okay. The last item, number 6, pertains to Kelly Park Road widening project. Again, the funding partners or the developers have remitted all of their funds, a total of $15 million. We had 1.3 in the budget in 23. That was for the design work, and then we had another 5 million in 24. That was to start the construction. And in order to continue that construction, I'm adding the 8.7. Any questions?
Any questions for Blanche?
Yes, and thank you for making that update so quickly. I appreciate that on the Border Lake pumping and flooding issue there. Want to make sure that's properly funded. The only other one I had a question on that we had discussed, and there didn't seem to be answers, was the funding for the Harmon Road and Binion Road curb and flumes for about $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that has to do with the flooding that occurred, or that was brought up last meeting.
Did you answer that for him?
Diana Almodovar, interim city manager, city engineer.
So on this project, we discussed it briefly in that it's curb cuts, things like that, to move water and stop flooding this is at water's edge, correct?
Correct.
So, and we look at, I know we've been on emails of Sheeler Oaks continual flooding. I believe you've been on those emails. Clearwater Lake is still dealing with flooding issues, and Border Lake obviously as well. It's taken months, if not years, to get those projects going. And we just had somebody, and it was HOA President Eric Mock, who's also on our planning board, come up and say they're going through issues. I walked out there as well, and it's definitely washing away their wall around their neighborhood. What's good and bad of this is that it took 2 weeks for us to get here to get this funded immediately. All these other projects that we have, it's taken months, if not years. So I want to make sure that we are addressing all of our residents correctly and timely, and not just a select few. So I want to make sure that moving forward that's taken care of properly. Because again, I want to protect all of our residents equally and equitably. And again, this one, I'm glad we're jumping on it because it needs to be taken care of.
Yes.
It's only going to get worse, but no different than Sheeler Oaks, Clearwater Lake, and Border Lake. So my ask is let's keep this momentum going on all projects moving forward.
We will.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Blanche? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve resolution 2025-12.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez,
Second.
second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just got to go to the ladies' room. I know we're coming up on the commissioner's report, so.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Yep.
call the meeting back to order. Commissioner Anderson, why don't you get us started, please?
So I just want to express again that we really want everyone to come out and support the Jalen Carter's homecoming celebration. It is a time for the community to come together and really to show these young children kind of what it is to be successful in playing sports. So we look forward to the entire community coming out to support, and I'm just excited about the event. That's actually all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Commissioner Velasquez.
We have the Little League on Friday, the grand opening, the opening for the season for the Little League at the Northwest Park. And I just want to make some mention.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Gives me time to get there from Kissimmee. Also, I just want to share my condolences to a member in our community. For many of you who know our artist, Delia Miller, she did the mural over at the Billy Dean Center. Her mom passed away.
Oh,
And
she was young.
so my condolences to Delia Miller, her mom, Miss Nida Miller, who's also a member of the Women's Club. She passed away 2 days ago from a very short illness. So my condolences on behalf of the city for our kind of hometown artist, Delia.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner Smith.
Well, my condolences as well. I wasn't aware of that when I've been out of town for the last few days. So she has my condolences as well. Great artist, and her mother was always very supportive. And just want to remind that there is Eagle Scouts dinner
That's right.
on
Next Wednesday.
next week.
Yes.
So that's all I have.
And that's where the oldest business in Apopka will be on, which is Ryan Brothers. Yep. So cool. Commissioner Nesta?
Yeah, no, I'm just learning about Mrs. Miller's mother passing. That is heartbreaking. So, yeah, whatever we can do, I guess let's all reach out, and if we can assist in any way, that's just terrible. She's definitely added to our community in very tangible ways. So, wow. A reminder that I have office hours this week, every Thursday from 11 to 1 here at City Hall. It's been very successful, very productive to be able to have discussions with the residents without just have a nice dialogue. And I know that there's residents that have expressed concerns over Ordinance 3081 and a level of comfort to access the building. I completely understand. And I'm happy to be able to meet you where you're at. When you're at, just reach out and I can adjust my schedule accordingly. I had a question about Senator Thompson. Did we create a proclamation for her?
Yes.
Can I get a copy of that, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Attorney Shepard, I appreciate your explanation on consent agenda and public comment. It's pretty simple, yes or no. Did we in any way violate the Sunshine Law as stated in Part 1, Section F, 1 and 3 of the Sunshine Manual?
There's nothing that I can show or would point to that says this is a clear violation.
Okay, thank you. It was brought to my attention that at the last meeting, at the February 19th meeting, the live feed was cut off while I was speaking at one point in the meeting. Mr. Hibbler, are you able to, do we have technology issues? Are you able to explain why that happened? Okay, it was at the end of the meeting as I was speaking, so I just want to make sure anybody on this dais obviously is not cut off in any capacity.
No, we're not cutting anybody off, I can assure you that. However, we have everything recorded, so if there is something missing from the YouTube feed, we can certainly splice it back in.
Can you come up here real quick? I'm sorry. Just so everyone can hear it.
Yes. Yeah, so your question is, are we cutting somebody off on the dais? Absolutely not. I'm not going to play that game with anybody. I don't care who's telling me to do it. I will not do that.
Okay.
So whatever we're streaming is being streamed unless I'm being told at this point in time, this is where we cut the feed for public comment. This is what I'm being ordered to do. If that's what it is, that's what we do. But I'm not cutting off anybody getting streamed up here during your
As long as everyone that's speaking is being heard
correct.
Appropriately.
And also, to add to that, we also have it on recording, so we can put it back in if something happens. I was informed we had a glitch. One of the cameras went black a couple of minutes ago, and I said, oh, great. Something's going to come out of this. I'm sure I'll hear about it. But we have it recorded so that we can put it back in if we have to on the YouTube stream.
Okay.
So I assure you, there is nothing like that happening.
Okay. I just want to make sure moving forward, there's no issues on that front.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, for now, that is all I have. Thank you.
All right. Jacob?
Yeah, Susan, if you could hand that down, that'd be great. So I went through a little bit of an exercise the last couple of weeks because the question's been asked a lot, and I really wanted to know what the answer was: is how can the public interact with the city? And thanks to Mr. Hippler and his team, most of the items that you see here on this list were developed the last 20 years, thanks to the technology that we have. 30 years ago, the way you could interact with the city was you could come in, you could schedule a time, office hours, you could make a phone call, you could write a letter and send it in the mail, or you could stand right here at this podium and communicate with the city council. But now, as you see here, and of course 911 was around at that time as well, so in case of an emergency. But now you see here we have over 30 different ways, and I'm not counting each and every one of the social media pages as well as the sub pages for the website. But we have over 30 ways that our residents, our customers, can contact the city depending on what the subject is. I'm just asking for all of you. I know you have this list already. This is just kind of to reiterate. If you could teach your residents to contact the city in these ways, the main reason is because we have a way to track those requests, and we're able to give feedback to those individuals about what status the request is at. So just that's what we do anyways. If we do get approached, we put it into the system, or we send the resident to that place and give them instruction on how to use it. So, and I'm sure I missed some things on here as well. If you guys can think of anything else, let me know, and I'll put it onto this list.
This is very valuable. Thank you for this. I'll ask just patience as we kind of transition, putting more people through that, because I'm sure I've CC'd on many emails of residents reach out and Commissioner Nesta, we have this issue. Sure, it's probably one of these resources they could have gone to, and I may just not have that readily available, so I reach out to you. Or
Yeah,
staff.
well, and you don't use it on a regular basis, so
Right.
you're not going to remember everything. So I hope this will be helpful for you.
Absolutely.
Keep that in your pile. You know, if they got a question, just look through here. I'll here. This is how we do
Very
it.
helpful.
This is our approach.
Can you make this pocket size?
So what?
Can you make this pocket size?
Yeah, we could do that. Put it right here. That's all I have.
All right. Cliff, anything?
Just a question for you all. I understand that there's going to be a charter workshop coming up, and I know this because Tamara asked me whether I would have any materials, and if I did, submit them by the 14th. And whether I'd have any materials depends on what you guys want to talk about at the workshop. So if you have any thoughts about specifically what we're going to go over, I'll see if there's any materials I think will be helpful to that process. And if you don't, then I'll just come send some materials, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
So if we want to have a meaningful discussion, let's not wait till the day before.
And if you don't know now, you can send me emails. I just need to know.
Right. No, what I'm saying, but don't wait till
correct because
Wednesday morning.
Tamara's thing is the 14th, and I need to know the ideas so I can put them on whatever materials to get them to her in time for y'all.
So how about the Friday before, which would be any new items you'd like to bring up? What would that give you enough time, Cliff?
Yeah, I'm on her schedule, so if I have a couple of days after getting materials to get her materials for you guys, because she's basically saying, what do you want to present? And that's up to you guys. You tell me what you want to present. I'll give her the materials. She needs them by the 14th, according to her email.
Okay, so by the 14th, whatever items you'd like for us to discuss would be great. So 14th of March for the following Wednesday at 6:00 meeting.
And I think the goal for that, I was going to say just the goal for that meeting, I believe, is to kind of like solidify as much as possible, kind of go through sections, say, are we done? Next. Okay, are we done on this one? Next. That was kind of what my thought was for that.
Well, there's also still the issue of where we're dealing with the election.
Right. And I think that meeting we should finalize it there, and then maybe have one more workshop after that to say, look, this is it. This is what we're going to be doing. Last comments. All right, let's do it.
So it's the comments, and then you have to officially say, yes, all of this is going to the voters. Because that's essentially the ordinance will be made up of what you're going to send to the
correct. Yes, and so that's why I'm trying to get it done, because I remember the dates that the supervisor of election provided to us needed to be early May, early to mid-May. It was May 1st on the dot. Okay, so we need to have that done. So I just want to make sure we're keeping momentum up and staying within their bounds of timelines as well. So thank you for that.
Okay. All right. Only thing I've got extra is this weekend is the 24th annual Rotarian Lowell's Cars One Lowell Swanberg Car Show presented by the Rotary Club of Apopka here at Kitland Nelson Park. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We averaged like 130 cars. So if you want to see a great car show, come down this weekend to Kitland Nelson Park from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the Lowell Swanberg Car Show. So hope to have you there.
Mayor, you're turning off
Yes.
public comment. All right. Well, I asked residents to please go over to my Nick Nesta Apopka City Commissioner C4 Facebook page for the live comments, and I ask that you give me 2 minutes to get set up. Thank you.